Good morning. My name is Chris. This is Lynn. Thanks for joining us in the upper deck for Pinstripe Chronicles. We're here to talk about the week in Yankee baseball, however small that amount of news might be, and to talk about anything else in baseball and whatever the heck else we feel like talking about today. We don't know where this will go. So, although I thought today we'd start out with talking about the fact that at least if we're not going to get any major league spring training ball, the minor leagues, I believe, are starting to heat up, and they'll be having seasons, right?
Yep, extended seasons at that.
Extended seasons. And I know that I have yet to see the Hartford Yard Goats, which is the minor league team in my town, but that's where I'll spend my money this summer when I go to the ballpark, not at Yankee Stadium, maybe.
Yep, whether there's a season or not, this is all making me less and less inclined to, and I know I say that every show. But I'll float the money to the future and go to see the Hudson Valley Renegades.
Yeah.
It's an hour on the Deegan or in traffic, even though I'm 10 miles away, or it's an hour up the beautiful Taconic. So off I go to the Renegades. And speaking of their spring training, Chris, our friend Jed Weisberger tweeted something earlier this morning, noting that with all these negotiations going on, taking note that they're still holding firm on not paying minor leaguers for spring training because they are literally trainees.
My head explodes when I hear that.
Yeah, and
it explodes.
And the heat factor, that cartoon of like the steam coming out. It makes me angry on so many levels, even beyond baseball, actually.
Yeah.
And so, these are the gentlemen we have on the field during spring training are our prospects, whether brand new or gearing up, for the AAA, AA, etc. And what are we telling them? There's already a clear message of how the owners value the players.
Right.
What are we telling our future?
Exactly.
That, you're trainees. Well, excuse me, when I worked at Fava shoe store at age 14, I was hired and trained. There was no free period of time. So, and there's no job I've ever been in, there's internships that, perhaps they don't get paid for, people don't get paid for, but those come with other benefits. So in the short, Jed is dead on with this. They are slowly destroying the game.
Yes.
And really less and less slowly and more, speeding downhill.
To pick up where you left off on the minor leagues, I've been following. I remember I knew a minor leaguer one time, not well, but he worked where I worked during the non-baseball year, and he had some kind of office job, and then he went off to the minor leagues for the summer. Right. And so he held down a full-time job for the other, months of the year that was not baseball related. And so I've always been aware of the plight, I would guess, of the minor leaguers and the system that does not support them financially or, in the way that would benefit them and the team in general. And there are organizations out there if you want to support minor league baseball. I mean, for one thing, just like with Lynn and I, just go to minor league baseball games. I just recently bought my first Hartford Yard Goats hat. I mean, I wanted a new hat. I wanted a Yankee hat, but right now I'm not spending my money on big league baseball. So anyway, there's a group called Advocates for Minor League Baseball, I think is the name of it. You can make donations that go to obviously support minor league players. I'm sure there's other similar things that you can do in your community to support them. But anyway,
Yeah.
so that's our tip for minor leaguers.
Right. And they really are the future of football. And, for your acquaintance that you just talked about, Chris, who had to, have gainful employment to, put enough money together in order to afford summer, summer play.
Exactly.
An example like that means they're not able to work on their game in their off season. And so, there's no maximum benefit going on either for the league or for the players.
Right.
And, I think it's a fairly safe presumption that that's the case for, many of the minor leaguers who, so many of which also aren't from here.
Right.
And so they may not have like friends and family to live with, for example, and where those finances come from. So it's the principle of the matter. And what does it say about baseball?
Exactly.
And maybe this happens in other sports, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Right. What does this mean for baseball? This whole negotiation process is really, I think, telling us what's wrong with baseball.
Absolutely.
And they don't care what we think about baseball and how we feel about baseball.
No, they don't. Speaking of the CBA, it was hardly a busy week with the CBA, but on, I guess, Tuesday, I believe this week, MLB made a proposal. If I'm not mistaken, let me just look at my notes here. Was it Tuesday that they met? And absolutely nothing was accomplished. And yesterday, another proposal from the players, or no, from MLB actually, right? Because what had happened earlier in the week, I'm sorry, I forgot, was they want a federal mediator.
That's right.
Right.
And
I missed that step. And the players said that's a publicity ploy. They don't want a federal mediator. I mean, open your books to scrutiny. That's what the players would love that.
Right.
But it's not going to happen. Tyler Kepner for the New York Times, he didn't pull any punches in his article this week about it. He said the saddest part of the lockout is the missed opportunity for the game, for MLB and MLBPA to grow the game, especially at a time when many fans are opting out of cable, looking for alternate sources of ways of seeing the games. He says they should be finding new broadcast paradigms and putting better products on the field rather than squabbling as they are, over money.
Right. Either way, they're already losing, untold, unimaginable amounts of revenue. And so obviously I have no figures to base that on, but and obviously also there are those that will, no matter what, get their season tickets in March, in January when the emails start going out, or etc. But yesterday was another nothing burger. I think there was some more dollars put on the table that the players are, continue to just, put their noses up about. And so, we talk an awful lot about the owners, but my open question is, what the hell are the players doing? What is the Players Association doing and thinking? And do they deserve the same backlash from us as the owners at this point? Mm-hmm. Because, and I understand that the owners are tossing things out for show, and because and they're really not tossing out much of anything,
right,
at all. But they're like, well, at least we're showing some, goodwill here and trying to move this along. And we're not getting any of that from the players. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, and I think that you are like me and that you are pro player for the most part.
Of course, yes.
Of course. So, but, it is a question. What I did see, Garrett Cole tweeted this week out that the players were very strong and united. Tyler Glasnow, same thing, said that, he's also a player rep for the Rays. He said that they're very strong this year, the players union. So I don't know. I don't know when, whether there's anything that will come from future talks, this coming week. Nothing that we know of has been scheduled.
Well, from where I'm sitting, whatever they consider strong and a Metro card will get me to the stadium, but it won't get me a game.
Right.
What does that even mean?
Right.
And even our friend Aaron Judge, who, no one could say a bad word about, and I'm certainly not now.
Yeah.
He was quoted in an interview, and I actually put a tweet out about this, that everything was great. Things are really going great. We really feel great. And the chances of starting, on time are great. So I think my tweet was, every time Aaron Judge says great, an angel gets his wings. When you're and Aaron Judge knows how to speak to the press.
Oh yes.
But
I always find Aaron Judge is a lot like Jeter. He speaks, but he never says anything.
Yes.
Not anything controversial or at all exciting. I mean, he says what you expect him to say, not more,
Yeah. Just another adjective or two would have been good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
anyway, it's just the thing is that it's just they don't have anything to say. It's either that, and they don't have anything really to show what the owners are trying to show. Like, well, they offered this, and we're giving on this. We're not hearing that at this point from the player side, and so what is going on? And we don't know. We know more about the owners at this point. Not that we like it for the players, but
right. Yeah, the players have. Yeah, I definitely miss the player interaction on social media. Damn, it's boring.
Right.
Without that.
It is.
And
it is.
Just to kind of put a bow on what you were saying about the CBA, they've met 4 times since December 2nd. That's 4. It's February 12th.
And that includes the 2 this week?
And that includes the 2 this week, I believe.
Yeah.
So we're 80 games, 80 days in, not games, 80 days in, and we're looking at pitchers and catchers reporting next week. How could Manfred say, he didn't expect games, for things to be delayed? Certainly spring training is going to be delayed. Maybe the regular season won't be somehow by some miracle. Anyway, I don't know.
And the dollar's always going to win. So it means abbreviated everything.
It does.
And so I certainly hope it isn't, signed agreement right into opening day, because, then nobody has hopes for anything in the season.
Right.
And, hopefully the lockout will lift sooner than later. I was, naively hoping to hear news on that this week.
Yep.
But even if we get a season that way, if we get a season without a signed agreement, what kind of a pallor does that put over the game for that season?
Right.
Not knowing when it's going to end, how it's going to end, players still disgruntled, owners caring even less than they ever did. Those things weigh into the dynamics of the sport.
Yeah.
And is it going to make the players hungry,
to play for these owners?
To get that owner another, trophy and ring?
Yeah.
It's far from ideal. And would they only be doing it just for whatever revenue they could grab and to shut the fans up?
Yeah.
And what's the choice then? What would you prefer? A season of continued uncertainty or no season at all? And I put that out to everybody, not just you, Chris.
Right. Well, it seems to me that there has to be a resolution to this for there to be a season. That's what I think. Because the players certainly seem, if, guys like Glasnow and Cole are to be believed, they're not going to give up till they have accomplished what they've set out to do. They may not get everything, but I'm sure that there's places where they're willing to bend, as most people are in negotiation. But since I understand players have not gotten what they wanted in the past, that, they're standing solid, if they do that, then the season may be in peril. But, and even Kepner said that. He said there's so much work remaining and not enough fear of the far-reaching impact of a work stoppage. That there's no urgency and no fear, seemingly, from what it would mean for baseball, as you pointed out, to have a work stoppage. So,
and again, goes back to the original point of where is the care?
Yeah.
Where is the care? There, these owners obviously feel like, okay, a year without baseball income, I'd rather wait it out.
Yeah.
And players essentially saying the same thing on behalf of all the players.
Yeah.
Who, one does not equal the other.
No.
And I'm not sure of everybody who's representing from the Players Association, but are there any that aren't at the pay grade of Cole, for example?
Right.
They're representing others that, think about the amounts we signed Glaber on for example.
Yeah.
So I get see this now. This is like, I'm so frustrated that I don't have words. So
okay. Well, it does. I think everybody hits that point. It's like you don't have words, or else you just have words you don't want to say on the air.
Yeah. And that's when we turn this off, Chris.
Right. With you.
Pull it out.
Oh my gosh. The Yankees farm system got a blow in the head this week from Keith Law. He put out his annual rankings. The Yankees came in at number 22, if I remember correctly. And the Dodgers, for example, came in, why am I looking at my wrong sheet? The Dodgers came in at number 1 in the farm system. So if you wonder why the Dodgers are going, getting into championships and the Yankees are watching from the sidelines after the wild card, I don't know. What do you think of that ranking? I think Keith Law is kind of known for having a anti-Yankee bias.
Well, I would like to see the numbers and the data behind his, position or what he's reporting.
Yeah.
But the Dodgers have certainly been freer with their wallet.
Yeah.
Before all this crap went down. they've certainly been more buyer than,
Right.
certainly than the Yankees, but then again, so is just about every other team.
Yeah.
But I think as I'm a bit surprised to hear how low the Yankees are, but at the same time, not so surprised, because what have we all been frustrated about before we went into lockdown? That, all of these all the people we lost because there was absolutely, no movement. Players that were, huge in the buzz for one thing, but huge in the press, have gone to others. The A's won from our lack of activity, and others. So I think it's horrible if that is in fact true, that it's 22, but it also furthers home the point where the Players Association to use it on, look what you're doing to the game. Here's what you need to do to bring us up. You want us to be you want us all to be like the Dodgers.
Right.
That's what all of the players representing all of the teams need to say.
Yes.
So that number, Yankee specifically,
it's
a surprise.
It's not a number that makes you happy. And he did say that the crown jewel of the Yankee system is Anthony Volpe, the shortstop Anthony Volpe. He did say too that there's more pitching in the Yankee farm system than there are potential regular on the position player side. So I think that we can take heart in the pitching of our young, Garcia, Nester Cortez. He's not a prospect anymore, but Eel, and I'm sure there's many that aren't coming off the top of my head. But anyway, I think for Yankee fans, we say, nah, that's Keith Law's opinion, that when the time comes, they'll find the talent, or they'll acquire some depth talent in what's going to be. I mean, once the lockout does end, it is going to be the most exciting downhill ski ride of a baseball player's life, because things are going to fly. Free agents are going to fly. Trades are going to, come, really fast and furious. At least that's what I hope.
For some players from multiple teams, their bags are going to be packed for 3 different climates for some of them.
Right.
So, and when you mention the pitching prospects, Chris, I know that we had been wanting to talk for a while about the rotation as it is, the starting rotation as it is. Factoring in who we had last year and still have, factoring who we may or may not acquire, and Sevi and Herman.
Right.
And their potential return.
Yep.
How does that all stack up? Who does it impact the most? Who gets knocked off because the Sevis and the Hermans are more at play now?
Right. Well, I mean, I've been a big Sevi fan since Sevi was in the minor leagues, and I'm a big believer that he's going to be comeback player of the year. Sevi's going to come out like gangbusters. I think when he comes out of there, he looked strong and ready to go to me last fall. It was, such a tease having him back as for the short time. But I'm excited to see another of our young starters, Nester Cortez. Love this young man. Absolutely. I mean, the different pitching styles, they kill me. I love it. you don't know what to expect from him. He's unpredictable. He keeps the batters off guard. I did not realize this about him. I looked him up, did a little research before this. He's Cuban, born in Cuba. His father won the Visa lottery when he was 7 months old, and his family then relocated to Florida, and he grew up actually in Florida. So, but isn't that a bizarre story about him?
It is.
Talk about a lucky character.
Yeah, and he's brought a lot of good luck to us.
Yes, he has, and you know, I think the eye test speaks for itself. When he came out last year onto the field, whether it was as a starter or as a reliever, you knew something exciting was going to happen.
Yes,
I think.
Yes, and I think we've always been on the same level about Cortez. So unpredictable, yet consistent.
Yeah.
Consistently unpredictable is like imperfectly perfect.
Exactly.
Except consistently unpredictable is both perfect. And I also think that he, first of all, he's unflappable.
Yeah.
And that becomes important in the heat of the game. He doesn't get into his own head when he's in a jam, and we've seen him in some jams.
Right.
And, you know, there are some of our outstanding pitchers that it's clear you see the data going behind their eyeballs when they're in a jam, and they have a tell about them, right? And so, but Nester, you know, I can't think of one time, and I don't think I missed a game last season where I was worried about him blowing his stack or getting caught off guard. And I think also he really was, for several key points, you know, especially as we got deeper into the season, he was the reason for, you know, at least the defensive reason for the wins we got when he was pitching.
Yeah.
And some of that also was due to the fact that for any pitcher, the offense wasn't really helping them very much. I think that was consistent throughout the season, regardless of how well the pitchers were pitching.
Right.
But he deserves, I know he was a value in the bullpen.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, a lot of our friends on Twitter are saying we need a stronger bullpen. Let him be the ace of the bullpen. I don't want him to become Mariano Rivera.
Yeah.
I think we need him to, maybe in later days, but, you know, we need him too much in the starting rotation.
I agree.
As wealthy as we feel about it right now.
Right.
And I think he's earned it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Fans on Twitter seem to believe that he's earned it. He's earned a spot in the rotation with his play in 21, and I agree with him 100%. He's unlike any other pitcher that we've got in the system, and so wherever he would land in the rotation would bring something different to the opposing lineup that they wouldn't know exactly what to make of, perhaps. But, and I don't think we need a second starting pitcher. I keep hearing we need a number two. We need a number two. I don't think that's true. I think Sevy is the number two. I mean, you know, sure, all right, you want to wait and see what he's got? Put Tyone in there at the number two for the time being. But Sevy's the number two, in my opinion. I mean,
right. And if he doesn't start that way, excuse me, you know, hopefully that'll quickly follow.
Yep.
It's not, you're right, Tyone, you know, I think Cole, Tyone, Monty,
yep,
you know, would be the starting first three at the beginning of the season. That's my prediction. It's not a comment about Sevy or not, but you know, I think those are the ones that we've had the most exposure to in the last few seasons.
Right.
And also they also might want to give Sevy a little bit of ease in time as well.
Right.
because he didn't get all that much play. It was mostly towards the end of the season. So,
right.
But then where does that put Herman?
Yeah.
Where does that put Nester?
Right.
And on.
I mean, Herman is another one that I followed and rooted for really hard, and I still root for him when he's on the mound. But he's controversial, so it seems like fans don't support him for a starting role, and I think that's just a prejudice, a bias because of his actions. But if he's in the bullpen, so much the better for the Yankees. He's got a plethora of tools. He throws hard. He had 19 wins for us, or however many wins he had that year. So I don't think the starting rotation is a concern going into the season.
No, I just want to see Nester, guardian saint of Bronxy, in the rotation.
Yep.
So here, this brings me to a related point, and it relates to the Hall of Fame discussion we had last time as well. I think it may be time for us old timers, so to speak, to let go of the values of baseball gone by. The definition of hero, I think, has changed when it comes to sports. And and I'm one of those old school fans, and Chris, you know me well on this.
Right.
And how you play on the field and off matter to the light that the organization is in, and the light that the game is in.
Yeah.
But if that were true, we'd have nobody nominated for Academy Awards. We'd have nobody in the Hall of Fame. And so, I think we're at this transition point where, even I, who I'll admit was a trash talker about Herman and adamant that he not return.
Right.
And bad mouthing him once he was, which wasn't very fan-like of me. But because of my advocacy with domestic violence,
right.
and just my feelings as a human being. So, but maybe we need to hold ourselves to a different standard. I'm not going to say a lesser standard,
right,
but a different standard.
Right.
Because we're certainly seeing it play out. As much as I'll continue fighting for a more fair nomination and induction process for Hall of Fame, I think I'm in the minority, the very, very, very small minority.
Yep.
And those of us that, were raised with the same thing, and truth be told, if media was back in the 20s the way it is now, we'd be talking so much smack about Babe Ruth.
Right.
And others.
Yes.
And that story about hitting the grand slam or the home run for the dying child in the hospital wouldn't mean squat. And wouldn't last as a legend for, decades and decades. And
right.
Maybe that's just where we're at.
Well, this is certainly a society that puts a microscope on its athletes, its stars, its heroes, as you say. What they do matters on a broader scope. As children, model themselves after them. Adults, model themselves after the behavior of professional, celebrities. But just to move off that topic a little bit and move on to a final thing, but related, is this week Luke Voigt came out and voiced his opinion about his role with the Yankees. And Lynn, I don't know, I'm sure you saw the tweet or the Instagram post. I don't know where it first came from, but he posted that he said, I want to play first base for the Yankees. I want to be the first baseman. But if that doesn't happen, I want to play elsewhere. And, that's maybe not even the only things that he said.
There, it isn't.
Yeah.
It isn't, because I saw another post on Facebook, and again, I'm not sure if it was lifted from Instagram or not, but he took that as a level deeper and said, you know, they're saying I'm not a good fit for them. Maybe they're not a good fit for me.
Right.
And the comments that exploded beneath that were, you know, actually I agreed with, because, but again, going with what I just went on my nun box about, you know, it's hubris. It's that attitude that he carries, that bravado.
Right.
And a lot of fans just don't like that. Especially when you're not seeing, you know, top performance. You know,
especially Yankee fans.
Yes, that's always who I refer to. Yes, exactly.
Gotcha.
I mean, you know, who is the hardest on their teams?
Right.
I think
Voit was our home run king in 2020, home run king for the league in 2020. I think that's still an accomplishment. I don't care what anyone says. I mean, it was a short season. It wasn't,
you can't take that away from him.
But you can't take that away from him. And he had a phenomenal offensive production that year. And he's played hurt, I think, ever since. He's not a healthy player. He comes. Is that true for you, Lynn? Do you find that he's not healthy, you know, that he's plagued by injury after injury?
I understand that he has had, you know, injuries and, you know, some struggles with that.
Yeah.
I don't see him as chronically and lengthy on ILs as some others.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's right. But then I look at DJ, who, you know, played all season with, you know, and I don't know how long into the season, but a significant part of the season suffering from a very serious hernia.
Yeah.
And so, and yes, you know, it definitely showed in his numbers.
Yep, it did.
But you still saw the energy, the fight, the upset when he, you know, wasn't effective. And to me, you saw it much more at bat than you did in the field, which you know had to have hurt him physically.
It had to.
He was still a monster on the field. Just, you know, I didn't have any problems with him defensively. My frustration with him was at the bat.
Yeah.
So it's two different mindsets, I think.
Right.
And I still think maturity is one of those factors. And I also understand Luke Voit is, you know, up in his 30s by now, right? So it's just still that element of, okay, then show us, knowing that there's reasons why sometimes a player isn't showing us.
Right.
But, you know, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, certainly fans on that most of the fans that I see on Twitter are not Voit fans at first base. Like, they want to, let's start the season with opening day, Luke Voit at first base. That's no one's dream, I don't think, for this season coming up.
Right.
Not with free agents on the market and possible trade candidates like Freddie Freeman's out there on the free agent market. There's no reason on this planet he can't be a Yankee. But do I think he will be? No. I think he'll be a lifetime Brave. If you ask, you know, in his heart, I think he's a Brave. But and they'll probably make him right. And there's Olsen. That would be a trade situation where, you know, we could get into some very interesting. I mean, every day there's interesting scenarios back and forth on Twitter with who would go in a trade for Olsen and perhaps Laureano, I think you mentioned.
Right. Yeah. You know, possibly getting, and the second name that I read literally 10 minutes before we started is out of my brain already.
Yeah. Laureano.
Laureano was one of them. And
okay.
I'm not remembering the other.
Yeah.
But there were two solid. It was either in Max Goodman's article or another one that I read, but there were two solid, and the numbers were there to talk about why and where they would fit in. That could be part of the package. But also with what would the Yankees also give along with, whatever dollars also will cost. And, that brought up Glaber and Urshela. Which then led to, okay, back to playing chess on the infield, like we spent a lot of time last week.
Yeah.
Well, DJ could move to first or third, and, could go back to being that utility move person. And might still be, depending on how the first base thing works out or not, whether we just re-sign Rizzo because it's quicker and easier and a sure thing. And yet, by the way, I also read this morning that the Cubs are rumored to be courting Rizzo pretty hardcore.
And I hope that's what happens, because my part of me is always going to love the Cubs because I grew up in the Midwest, not 3 hours east of Chicago. So the Cubs are always a favorite of mine. And to see Rizzo go back would not be the worst thing that happened.
No.
He gets paid if they pay him.
I think, I would think that they know that. Because he's tasted the Yankees. The Yankees, I think, will likely make a play for him because it's the easiest way out. But he also was a big part of the World Series the Cubs finally won.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure that has to be in his heart. And so now Rizzo, who last week I was thinking of as the sure alternative, I'm not so sure about, because it makes entirely good sense that the Cubs have been talking to him, or something's going on where there's been discussions. So
do you think we see Luke Voit as in the opening day lineup?
I don't think we'll see Luke Voit in the opening day lineup. I think that we have a great chance of having Luke Voit for the season, but as DH and provided that if they have spring training, they're seeing what they need to see from him. I don't know that
if there's even room for him at DH. He may be trade, He and Glaber are the odd men out on the infield, in my opinion.
They are, and he could very well be part of the deal.
Could be.
Yeah, but the 2020 Luke Voit, if there's any element of that gets spotted,
offensively speaking, we would eat that up.
Yeah, we would take that over his current struggles defensively. Because we have solid other players, so. I don't know, all of these scenarios, and if this then that will continue. So yes, when lockout goes off, it's going to be like the bell rung on the craziest day on Wall Street.
It is. It's going to be just like that.
Be a feeding frenzy. And Yankee fans loves them some frenzy.
And I may have to call in sick from work for that, and just to watch the deals go down, man.
Absolutely, that would be like an opening day, call in sick. Absolutely.
Oh, I know. I'll be taking opening day off. I plan it every year as a day off.
Yeah, it's a tradition. I don't even lie. I'm like,
I don't know. I just
opening day.
It's opening day
on the calendar. Yeah.
So
So I think I think that's about all we had on track for today. And so, thank you, Chris, as always, for a great discussion. Thanks to you who are watching. We really appreciate that you tune in week to week. We love talking to our friend Spencer specifically. We love getting feedback.
Yes.
And it's the best when it's glowing.
Yes.
But also tell us what you want and what you're wondering, because we're doing this for you. So, we would love to see your comments on Twitter on the @PinstripeChronicles page. And many of you know how to reach us directly on our addresses, which is Yankees Gab a Gab for Chris Northrop, and Pinstripes 2822 for me. And Chris's username is self-evident. It's Chris name. And many of you watching might know me as Mother Superior. And so engage with us, follow us, we'll follow you back.
Yep.
We want this to be a dialogue with you as well. So until next week, just a reminder, you'll always have a reserved seat right here with us on the upper deck. Have a good week, everybody.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.